want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. What we're seeing, folks, are tremendous spikes all across the country. We are seeing states, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Texas, report record cases around this nation. We also hear that Dr. Anthony Fauci, for 2 months, hasn't had any conversation with Donald Trump, briefed him at all. What the hell is the White House doing? Now, while that's going on, the White House doesn't even really want to pay any attention. They are trying to rush people, rush students back to the classrooms. But the problem is teachers are going to be reporting in a couple of weeks. I know this. My sister, her daughter, teachers. Is it safe for teachers to be going back to the classroom? Is it safe for students to be in the classes? Now, many businesses and entities have had to adapt to this, but what is going to happen when it comes to our children? Now, the president of the American Academy of Pediatrics, Dr. Sally Goza, says she is concerned that schools may be pressured into reopening too quickly. Another concern is the impact of young people being out of school for so long. Joining us right now is Congresswoman Johanna Hayes of Connecticut, who's a teacher and on the House Committee on Education and Labor. Congresswoman, glad to have you back on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Thanks, Roland. Good to see you.
So, my brother used to teach. My sister is a teacher. My other sister is a teacher, and now her daughter's a teacher. So, I've got parents who are working in polls in Texas, and folks are out there in public. You've got an administration who is trying to rush folks back into the classroom. You had Senator Rand Paul, when he was questioning Dr. Fauci, was going, what's the big deal? Why can't kids go back to school? You got Texas Senator John Cornyn. I'm sorry, I'm going to say it. I'm native of Texas. My senator, he's an idiot, by saying we don't know if kids can get COVID-19 when you've got 7,000 kids who've gotten coronavirus in Florida. How concerned are you that this nation is about to send our children into a minefield, and not just them, but teachers, administrators, personnel, support staff? Are we actually ready?
Roland, I'm very concerned about everything you just described, because I know that so many of my colleagues, superintendents, that are going to have to stand in front of teachers and say to them, I can't guarantee that this is safe. And then those teachers in turn are going to have to stand in front of children. I mean, the thing is, people think that it's just about geography, that kids will go back to school and continue to learn. If kids are afraid, if kids are not healthy, if their families are sick, they will not learn. I, like everyone else, would like for kids to go back to school. My daughter's a teacher, but that conversation should start with, yes, we want to reopen schools, but then it should end with, and we are going to invest adequate funding to make sure that we hit all of the benchmarks to make sure people are safe. I think it's unconscionable that we have replenished PPP loans 3 times to make sure that small businesses were undergirded, and we can't make the same types of investments in schools. We're going to need at least $200 billion to do this. You know, businesses have a phased-in reopening, but we expect kids to go back when we don't have enough data to say how this virus interacts with children.
Well, not only that, is there an actual process? I remember a couple of months ago, I showed a video of what a particular Chinese school did. Parents dropped the kid off. They came in, temperature check. They also sprayed something on their shoes, on their feet. They also then sprayed their whole body. Then also, so there was like this whole process. And I'm sitting there going, okay, I got twin nieces. And we've gotten an email where they've laid out, and I'm sort of like, okay. The email said essentially that they'll be in school twice a week. They have to walk on one side of the hallway, safe distance. And I'm still going, really?
You're right. Many of these plans, I mean, my own state put out a 50-page plan, and I looked at the plans from many other states, and you're left with more questions than answers. Most of our schools don't have adequate ventilation. I mean, I don't know when the last time someone has been in a school, but we have buildings that are 50 years old that don't have ventilation, that don't have windows that open. You know, FEMA has already said that they are not prioritizing school districts or purchasing PPE for them. So districts will be competing in the market for PPE, for masks and whatever else they need. And most of that stuff is already on back order. We're only a couple weeks out. There still is no national strategy. And then I think we cannot overlook the fact that the communities that were hit the hardest by COVID, our urban communities, our Title I districts, our 100% free and reduced lunch districts, are going to be the same communities that struggle to reopen because they don't have the resources to do it on their own. I mean, Congress allocated, I think it was about $13 billion in the CARES Act. There's state and local municipality funding in the HEROES Act. And then we just did the Moving Forward Act to help with school infrastructure. But I think there needs to be emergency intervention right now, where there's a standalone bill with standalone funding with national guidelines coming from the Department of Education. This has been politicized, and now teachers and parents have to make a choice on the backs of their children to jumpstart the economy and return us to normal. We cannot return to normal until we are healthy again.
Again, as I begin to just to look at this whole deal, parents are obviously worried because they're dealing with the fact that, will my child get behind? The online learning is not equal. I know of a suburban school district in Houston. They're going to be 100% online. They have the resources for laptops, for pads. They have. I mean, that's a different environment. I remember reading a story a couple of months ago in Chicago, the high number of children tracking who were not even logging on. Mm-hmm. They were able to see how many of them, they weren't even logging on. And so, again, you're now talking about not 2 or 3 months. We're not talking about a school year. That might be the case for 9 months.
Mm-hmm. So, and I think that's part of my challenge, because back in February when we were first discussing what might happen, and then in March when there was a national conversation, state after state deciding to shut down, schools were looked at as places for babysitters so parents could work, or making sure that kids eat, or, you know, they had to have a safe space. And now we're talking about we need to reopen because they're lonely. All of those things are definitely societal problems, and I'm glad that we're having a national conversation about the achievement gap and kids missing education time, but to not discuss their health. So for the same doctors that are saying kids are lonely and they need to get back, they should be demanding that we have the funding so that we have trauma-informed counselors to meet them when they return from the most traumatic experience in their life. So yes, I agree with everyone that kids need to go back to school, but the purpose of school is the academics. All of these other societal problems, we need to deal with those as well. We need to stabilize childcare. We need to make sure that families are food secure, but not send kids back to school because we want to make sure all of those things happen when we cannot guarantee their safety. And then to ask teachers to have to make that choice. And every plan that I've read, there's no mention of, if a faculty member says I'm feeling symptoms and I want to get tested, can I get tested? Most of that is you need to do that on your own. So there's so many issues that we are not even addressing.
Wait. I'm sorry, roll back. Are you saying, hold on, let's roll that back.
Yeah.
That if in the middle of teaching, if all of a sudden a teacher says, I'm not feeling well, they don't have protocols in place to test the teacher on site?
Right. These are state by state issues, but in my state particular, and this is a question that I've asked my commissioner, my governor, and every superintendent I talk to, there is no plan for universal testing. And my next question was, if I'm a custodian or a secretary or a paraprofessional or a teacher or anyone in the building, and I say I'm having symptoms, I would like to get tested, it is incumbent upon the employee to find community-based testing or something else. It's not seen as an occupational exposure. We don't know enough about this virus, and we are sending our teachers almost into battle without any gear, without, any covering, and that's just not fair. A month ago, my colleagues are talking about the Herculean efforts that teachers were making, and now the conversation has shifted to, oh, they're just lazy and they don't want to go back. And I'm sick and tired of people using teachers as the scapegoat and this binary choice where, they're presented as martyrs, where if you're not doing this, then you don't care about kids. I think it's just the opposite. Teachers know better, and they do care about kids, and they know that they can't guarantee the safety of these children. And when the Secretary of Education comes out and says everything from riding a bike to going up in a space shuttle, how do you expect for teachers to fall in line behind a message like that?
Well, not only that, we're not just talking about children. And I think that's what people understand. You're talking about children, teachers, administrators, support staff, and
faculty, bus drivers, everyone.
Right. And
what are you going to do when a parent wants to come into the school? What are you going to do? College campuses are shutting down or saying they're not letting their freshmen in. A high school senior is only a couple months removed from a college freshman. What's the difference? What are you going to do when you have a senior in high school who refuses to wear a mask? And then this leads into discipline issues. These are all of the scenarios that I've encountered on a good year. And nobody's factoring these in the middle of a pandemic. And it is not okay.
Well, now you also have the other issue, and that is if, as an adult, if I have to self-quarantine for 14 days, I can do that. A kid can't self-quarantine. That kid is still going to be interacting with that parent during that period.
There are so many issues here, Roland. I mean, I lived with my grandma. I was raised by my grandmother when I was going to school, and she had so many underlying health issues. What are we going to do with the kids who have medically fragile people in their families? My husband had COVID-19, and when he first presented, he didn't have any symptoms. He didn't have a fever. We just heard Keisha Lance Bottom say the same thing. So when you have kids in these communal settings, staff coming and going, and in most of our district, staff don't live in the community. They're commuting back and forth. This is not how we contain this virus. And I don't want to appear as if I don't want kids to go back to school. The number one indicator the number one in-school indicator for student success is the relationship they have with their teachers, effective teachers in front of students. But to do that when we can't guarantee their safety, just to return to normal and jumpstart the economy, and now as a part of a political game that's being played, Roland, in the worst possible scenario, I don't want to be sitting here with you in 6 months having this conversation saying we made a mistake. We moved too fast. And when it comes to our children, we should spare no expense. We should not, take any chances and use them as an experiment.
All right. Congresswoman Jahana Hayes, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Roland.
All right, folks, let's go to my panel here. I want to talk to them. Rob Richardson, host Disruption Now podcast, and also Amisha Cross, political analyst and Democratic strategist. Rob, this is serious in that we are seeing, again, Texas and Florida, where these numbers are just really, really increasing. I really think we've got to understand what's about to happen. I mean, this is scary for a lot of people.
Yeah, well, we have to actually pay attention to data, which a lot of these politicians and people in power don't like data. If you look at other nations, we are exceptional now. We're not exceptional in the way we want to be, but we're exceptional in the fact that we can't get this under control because we just don't want to follow data. We want to follow whatever this idiot in the White House is saying. So you have people doing stupid things and just rebelling against social distancing, rebelling against putting on a mask, rebelling against things that work. Science works. So right now you are seeing that happening. And so this is not surprising. And my hope is that we actually get some control and people realize that we have to take steps. We're not through this. And in fact, it's getting much worse because we didn't do the things we need to do on the front end.
Amisha.
I absolutely agree with what Rob just said. We are right now a ship without a captain. We are a leaderless nation. And for all intents and purposes, we've watched our COVID-19 response fall apart because of it. Not only did this president ignore the fact that COVID-19 was a threat, he thought it could be contained to China. He also, instead of giving any authorization or any real leadership from the White House, he decided to leave things up to the states. And not because he had great faith in the states, but because he didn't want any blowback on himself. And even when he told the states that it was up to them to decide when they would be ready to reopen and what their next steps would be, he took to Twitter to call out states who decided that they were going to actually follow CDC guidelines and enforce social distancing, require masks. This has been a president from day one who has decided to go against and not believe in science. And now we're seeing the fruits of that ignorance. We're seeing the fruits of that illegitimacy, and our nation is suffering because of it. And the world is watching us. This is the first time in America's history where we've seen countries in Europe, we've seen countries in multiple places decide that they don't even want Americans to travel there. That is not something that we do as America. That's not something we've seen. And this is President Trump's legacy, someone who doesn't know what he's doing and is basically taking this country in the wrong direction. And I'm afraid that, leading into 2020 in the election, we're going to see a lot more devastating things come out of COVID-19, especially as we walk into the fall months where the flu season is going to tick up and we're going to be battling two things at once.
Michael, go ahead.
No, I'll just say very quickly, this has also been, COVID-19 has been less of a disruptor. It's been a disruptor in the short term, and it's accelerated long-term trends. So when you talk about just like the Congresswoman talked about, when you talk about access to broadband, which we always needed and communities didn't have, now that we don't have that, it's accelerating the inequalities that we already see. The fact that we don't have universal pre-K, other nations have that. That's another reason why they were able to handle this. And you look at our healthcare system, it's a for-profit system that incentivizes not actually giving people access to healthcare. These things are now crippling us and really preventing us from being able to respond. So all of these things are really affecting this in a really serious way. So it's going to be a long road.
Michael Brown, former vice chair at DNC Finance Committee. The reason I think this is so different is that when we talk about businesses shutting down, we're dealing with adults who can make independent decisions when it comes to self-quarantine, when it comes to how careful they are. Look, I don't have biological children, but my wife and I have raised 6 of my nieces from a year and a half all the way up to being in their 20s. We got twin nieces right now who are 16. I'm sorry, they don't think the same way as adults, how decisions are made. And I'm sitting here going, okay, I'm very leery of sending them into a school situation because I'm not sure how other children will be dealing with social distancing, things along those lines. I know what I can control here in my workspace. I don't necessarily have the same thing when I talk about my nieces.
Well, I have 3 sons, and 2 of which are in college, and I just can't imagine how I have no faith in them that they will say social distance on campus. How are we expecting 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12-year-old young people there is no way they're going to be able to do this properly without obviously some consequences. We hope it doesn't happen, but the question is, it could. And then what's concerning, Roland, and you and I have talked about this, I know everything, whether it's a disease, whether it's a tax cut, it's all political. And frankly, I'm not sure the Senate was in play before COVID-19 hit. This president, 45, has messed us up so much that I think he's put the Senate in play. More than in play, I think actually the Senate not just flips, but flips significantly by possibly 5 or 6 seats. Because Arizona's gone, you can forget that. Cory Gardner's finished. And so Willis is probably finished. So I just don't know how you keep the Senate. And because these enablers have let him deal with this disease and this crisis the way he has, he's hurt them too.
Well, I certainly get the whole politics of it. I think, again, what you're dealing right now is fear. And you're dealing with real fear of a lot of parents out there. And I'm telling them, Misha, all it's going to take is for 30, 40, 50 cases in a school, and you're going to have pandemonium of parents pulling their kids out, and then what do you do?
And Roland, you're right. And the issue is we've already seen those numbers. We've seen them in early childhood early child care centers and pre-K centers, particularly in the South. We've seen where there have been 70 plus staff members who got sick, and for these child care centers that reopened, they had to immediately close back down and parents pull their children out. That's at the ECE level. At ECE, most centers don't have hundreds of students. When we're talking about your elementary school, middle school, and high school, they definitely do. That means you have to reduce class sizes. Right now, your average class size is 25 to 30 students. CDC guidelines tell us 15 or less. So that means you have to have space in your school building that accommodates that. It means you have to split up your teachers. It means you have to stagger schedules. It means that you have to be concerned about the paraprofessionals, the teachers who may themselves already be more vulnerable. It means the cafeteria workers, where are these kids going to eat, because no longer can we house them in a cafeteria room eating at the same time for lunch. What do you do when you can't have them on buses together? How are we going to make this work? And school districts and teachers have been grappling with this for months. And I get it, as you spoke earlier, that the online learning, that the distance learning hasn't necessarily been working well. But I would posit, and teachers do as well, that sending kids back before we have something in place that actually makes sense, before we have those structures in place and the designs necessary according to CDC recommendations, would result in a complete failure. A lot of teachers, paraprofessionals, parents, grandparents, and other people getting sick. And we know what that is going to look like. So I think that it's just extremely detrimental and extremely idiotic for the president to be pushing something like this, and to also have the support of many Republican governors who they were willing to risk our grandparents a few months ago, and today they're willing to risk the kids, the parents, the teachers, and everybody else.
But what you're dealing with here that really is a fundamental problem. This is where failure of leadership comes in.
Absolutely.
This is where, Rob, having an administration, there is no way in the world a Dr. Anthony Fauci should give an interview and say he hasn't briefed the president in 2 months. That can happen. You can't have somebody sitting in the Oval Office contradicting the Centers for Disease Control and their rules when it comes to opening schools. You can't. This is an absolute travesty of what we're witnessing, of epic proportions, of an administration that is grossly unprepared and who doesn't care about the people.
Doesn't care, grossly unprepared, and doesn't care. Doesn't care at all, doesn't care about the consequences, because leadership, people follow what the leader do, no matter what. People say that they're independent. If you look at what they do, people are following in line. Many Republicans, many of his followers, and they are resisting, and it's causing people's lives. It's causing their lives, it's causing other lives, and it's causing the economy to go backwards. It's not going to help them. It's not going to help them get reelected. I would just say this. I think Michael talked about earlier, not necessarily having faith in some younger kids to not socially distance. I don't have faith in a lot of the American people. They're showing that they don't want to do it. Like we're watching that. We have at least 30% of the American people that are just going to say, I don't care. And what we know is they're going to carry it on, and we're going to continue this process. And kids are carriers. They may be less prone to getting sick from COVID-19, but they're not less prone to being carriers and getting their grandmother sick and getting other people sick. So are we just saying, or getting administrators sick, as Amisha and you, Roland, pointed out? So are we just saying those people don't matter anymore? This has gone away? I mean, I just don't understand any of it. I really don't.
Michael.
It's so problematic when you have, and everything comes back to a leader. Now, Mayor Bottoms just announced she's probably going to roll back where they are in Atlanta, because forget school. They're not even thinking about that. They just know that their communities are not safe and not ready. Obviously, the red state leaders or red state mayors of states and cities are trying to make sure this guy gets reelected. They don't care about their constituents. They don't care that more than 133,000 people have died. And that's just what's on record. Is probably more. So and I know everyone's mentioned it, without the proper leadership, I don't even know why, and I'm being a little facetious, but I don't even know why the media covers 45 anymore. He's irrelevant, because all he's doing is talking to about 25, maybe 26% of the people in America. The rest aren't even listening to him anyway. So I don't know why we're following him either.
Amisha, again, I just think that what we're dealing with right now, we're dealing with a group of people who frankly don't give a damn. I think you're seeing the result of that in polling numbers. And I'll say this here, and the Lincoln Project has said this as well. Every single Republican senator who has allowed this nonsense to go on should lose their job in November. Every one. I have absolute. John Cornyn, you need to go. Arizona, Maine, North Carolina, Georgia, Colorado, Montana. These people have allowed this to go on. No hearings, no challenges. No, it's like, oh, no, we're scared. Whatever Trump wants to do, we're fine with it. People are dying, and these people are playing games, and we've lost 133,000 people.
I agree with you 100%, Roland. My fear, though, is that there is a considerable percentage of the American population that does not. There are people who consistently don't want to wear masks, refuse to social distance. I have absolutely no problem with what this president is saying, irrelevant to the actual numbers that we're seeing of COVID-19 cases tick up. I think that what Trump has done is lull the American psyche and help to actually, infiltrate I is me type of understanding, so we can be isolationists, we can do whatever we want. He's hardcore, he's pushing this ideology that to a lot of people is something that they still believe in, and I don't actually know what those people will have to see before that changes. And like I've heard you say on this show multiple times, 2020 is going to be, November is going to be a turnout race. It is not just going to be us watching COVID numbers or watching unemployment numbers rise or watching the consistent failures of Donald Trump. He's done that since he got elected in 2016. However, we haven't seen a huge tide change in terms of his electorate and that base that continues to support him. So I don't necessarily think that these numbers are going to move them. What I do think will, and holds the possibility of doing so, is if there was a heightened risk with opening these schools, because people don't naturally want to risk their kids. They also don't really want to risk their grandparents. But I think that what we're seeing right now is a nation that has been lulled to idiocracy because of the man who happens to be in the White House. And I don't think that that changes anytime too soon, irrespective to the COVID numbers that we're seeing.
Yeah, bottom line is
to hope that our America looks different, but that's a hard sell.
These nuts are going to continue yelling and screaming about masks. Is going to continue.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Folks, we support black-owned companies right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Well, Ceek.com is one of those companies. Mary Spio, she is the founder. She is the architect, the inventor. These two products here, these are virtual VR headset where you can pop your phone right in. You can watch a 360-degree video right from your phone with this particular headset. You can also go to their website, Ceek.com, and look at the programming that they have that's also virtual reality. They also have these great headphones right here, folks. Allows you to listen to music. If you're a gamer, you can also do that. 360-degree headphones, 4D. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. All you got to do is simply go to and use this promo code. If you want to get either one of those items, go to promo code is right there. RMVIP2020. RMVIP2020. Pop that in. Will allow you to be able to get the products. That's how you can support them and how you can support Roland Martin Unfiltered. And so again, Ceek.com, CEEK.com.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it.
Hey everybody, this is your man Fred Hammond, and you're watching Roland Martin, my man, Unfiltered.
Hi, this is Essence Atkins, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Hey, yo, Peace World, what's going on? It's the Love King of R&B, Raheem Devon, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Hi, my name is BRESHA, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. Ow. Well, I like a nice filter usually, but we can be unfiltered.
What's going on? This is Tobias Trevelyan. And if you're ready, you are listening to and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What's up? I'm Lance Gross, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Hi, this is Cheryl Lee Ralph, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, could it be any other way? Really? It's Roland Martin.
You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Hey fam, want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? The blackest show on all of digital, cable, and broadcast. Check out our audio podcast. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Press play.